that for a business to not adapt sustainable goals for the future will probably be detrimental.
So Dr. Jorgensen, there's been a lot of talk about sustainable development at the moment, but what is it exactly?
I think one of the first things to consider is that just as in the case of what we call constructive ambiguity in terms of the way people speak, there is no one definition of what sustainability is. Some people associate it with the environment, other people with fair trade, things like that. The reality is that each company or organization is going to have to define what is sustainable in terms of meeting their own goals. But they should be aware that the public and other people are going to be watching what their definition is.
Okay, and so for a business to become sustainable, obviously like everything, there's going to be pros and cons for it. What are the benefits for a business to become more sustainable?
In the first place, there is so much communication regarding business practices and other information about the outcomes of business endeavors on the internet and in other kinds of reporting, that for a business to not adapt sustainable goals for the future will probably be detrimental. Funding is going to be there for businesses that think about that. Education is being redefined in many quarters for students to incorporate sustainable goals. And in general, we're coming to a consensus on the planet, including younger people, that if we don't do this, what is the alternative? What is the outcome?
Okay, and so then sort of looking on the other side, what would be the potential risks for a business in becoming more sustainable?
First of all, a lot of times it's associated with increased cost factors. But when you look at the long term, you may find that they're not as costly as in not doing it. The second thing is that if a business says that it's taking sustainable measures and then is proven not to be doing so, the backlash can be pretty intense. And sometimes businesses, even within the business itself, there are different approaches, different strategic ideas about what the outcome should be. Is it profit at the expense of sustainability? In the future, profit will probably come with sustainability.
Okay, so what would you then say to a business that, you know, isn't sustainable at the moment but wants to become sustainable? What are the first steps they should take?
The first thing that the business should do is look at what its long-term goals are seriously and see what about those could be defined once you start to put the details in place as sustainable or as not supporting sustainability, and what they could change or endeavor to change in order to meet those criteria. If they are looking for funding from banks, it's going to be very important to demonstrate that. If they are looking to attract young people out of school into that area, it's going to be very important that they're considered to be on the right track. So these are the kinds of things that they should sit down and plan strategically in order to remain competent and competitive.
Okay, and we sort of touched on it before that, you know, that there may be some potential risks. Is there any way to minimize, you know, any type of risk for a business?
One of the most important things businesses can do is to honestly be able to say they did the best they could. Perhaps they made mistakes, and then in that case, the research indicates that it would be good for them to acknowledge, we made a mistake, but we're trying to correct it. The worst thing is to try to cover it up or assume that the public is not going to be sufficiently wise to figure it out. That's probably the biggest risk. In this day and age of the internet, people communicate pretty quickly.
As always, it's a pleasure to have you with us, so thank you so much for coming and chatting with us today.
Thank you for inviting me here.
That's all from myself and Dr. Jorgensen. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep clicking back to Ducoscopy TV.